The archival descent always started the same way: a security keycard that didn't belong to her, lifted from a distracted graduate student 3 weeks ago, and a story about needing to verify medieval tax records. Evelyn Cross had become fluent in lies over the past decade, ever since her reputation had imploded at Oxford after she'd challenged the authenticity of the Ashford collection. She'd been right, of course. The artifacts were forgeries. But being right had cost her everything. Now, at 42, she existed in the margins of academia, adjunct teaching at third-tier institutions, her name whispered as a cautionary tale about ambition and arrogance. The University of Strasbourg's underground archive represented her last real chance at vindication. She'd spent 6 months earning the trust of Dr. Laurent Mercier, the archive's director, carefully positioning herself as a reformed skeptic interested in historical verification methods. When he'd finally offered her limited access, she'd known it was time to move beyond the official channels. The keycard worked on the main archive door. Of course it did. Security here was decades old, designed around the assumption that nobody would actually want to steal information from the dead. Evelyn descended the stone stairs, her footsteps echoing in the cool darkness. The temperature dropped with each level, a natural refrigeration system that had preserved documents for over a century. The archive opened before her like a tomb, rows of climate-controlled chambers stretching into shadows that seemed to have their own weight and presence. She'd been here officially 3 times, always under supervision, always shown the same curated collections. But Evelyn's gift had never been about following designated paths. She'd always seen the spaces between things, the gaps in logic, the suspicious absences, the way historical narratives seemed to conveniently skip over certain decades. In the 3rd chamber, she noticed it. A barely perceptible discoloration on the stone wall, a seam that suggested a door that had been deliberately concealed decades ago. Her heart quickened. She ran her fingers across the stone, feeling for mechanisms, and found a small brass plate worn nearly smooth by time. It took her 20 minutes to figure out the mechanism, another 10 to coax the ancient panel open. Behind it lay a narrow passage, its air stale and undisturbed. The architect who'd designed this building, Klaus Verheiden, had also designed safe houses for the Belgian royal family during the war. The historical record mentioned this fact only obliquely. Nobody seemed to wonder why a university would employ a man with those specific architectural skills. Evelyn retrieved a flashlight from her bag and stepped into the passage. The walls pressed close, and she had to turn sideways to navigate the narrowest sections. This was the real archive, she realized. This was what they were hiding. The passage opened into a chamber she hadn't seen on any official blueprint. Filing cabinets lined the walls, their surfaces thick with dust. She photographed everything with her phone, her hands trembling slightly as she worked through the documents. Personnel files, meeting minutes, correspondence between names she recognized, prominent historians, museum directors, a UNESCO official. The letterhead dated back to 1952. As she read, a pattern began to emerge. The same pattern recognition that had made her brilliant once, the skill that had also made her dangerous. These people had been systematically identifying historical documents that contradicted preferred narratives, not destroying them. Oh, that would have been too crude. Instead, they'd been carefully removing them from circulation, burying them in places like this, while publishing alternative accounts that better suited the political needs of various governments. A missing journal from a French general that would have revealed collaboration. Diplomatic cables that contradicted the official story of how NATO was formed. Photographs from Eastern Europe that showed something other than what textbooks claimed. These weren't fringe conspiracy theorists. These were the architects of official historical truth. She photographed everything, moving deeper into the chamber, and that's when she heard the sound. A door opening behind her. The blood drained from her face, She spun around, clutching her phone like it was a weapon, only to find Dr. Laurent Mercier standing in the passage, a pistol held loosely at his side. He looked tired, almost pitying. "I was wondering when you'd find this place," he said softly. "I left the security protocols unchanged specifically so you would." Evelyn's mind raced through escape routes that all seemed to end in stone walls. "You wanted me to find it." "Wanted is the wrong word," Mercier replied. "Anticipated. Hoped, perhaps. I've been watching your career for years, Evelyn, ever since Oxford. Do you know why the Ashford collection was so important?" "Because it was forged," Evelyn said, her voice steadier than her hands. "Because I was right." "Yes, but more importantly because you were the right person to be right." He gestured for her to sit down on a crate of files. To her surprise, she obeyed. The gun never wavered, but his expression remained gentle. "The scholars you've read about in these files were not what you think. We never were." "You're rewriting history," Evelyn said. "You're burying truth." "We're protecting it," Mercier corrected. "That's not the same thing. Sit with me a moment and I'll explain. Then you can decide what to do with the information." Against her better judgment, Evelyn listened as Mercier told her a story that made everything she'd understood about historical preservation seem impossibly naive. The network hadn't formed to serve governments, though governments certainly benefited. It had begun in 1947 after 3 scholars, a German archivist, a French historian, and a Polish professor, discovered something in the rubble of post-war Europe that terrified them. They'd found documents suggesting that the historical record, as it was being written in real time, was being deliberately manipulated not by any single government, but by something far more dangerous. A coordinated effort spanning multiple countries and ideologies, an effort to control not what happened, but what people remembered happening. Once the historical narrative was fixed in the public consciousness, the documents were irrelevant. The lies became truth through sheer institutional repetition. "They understood something that took me decades to accept," Mercier said. "If you want to stop institutional lying, you can't do it by arguing with the narrative. The narrative is already set, cemented into every textbook, every museum, every curriculum. You can only do it by becoming the very thing you're fighting, by controlling what goes into the archive itself." "That's insane," Evelyn whispered. "That's exactly what they're doing." "Yes, but we're doing it to counteract what they're doing. We're preserving truth in here while they control the official story out there. When the time comes, maybe in 50 years, maybe in 100, when people are ready to question the narratives they've been given, these documents will be here, waiting, undeniable." Evelyn's hand trembled as she processed this. "You're not rewriting history. You're writing secret history." "We are," Mercier confirmed. "And we've been waiting for someone like you, someone with the gift to see patterns nobody else sees, someone who's been destroyed by institutions for being right, someone who might understand that redemption doesn't come from proving you were right. It comes from understanding the architecture of why you were destroyed." He lowered the gun slightly. "I'm offering you a choice, Evelyn. You can walk out of here and try to expose us. You'll be discredited. We have resources far beyond what destroyed you at Oxford. You'll become the story of a paranoid woman inventing conspiracies. Or you can stay. You can help us preserve what's true in here, out of reach of the liars out there. You can't save the official record, but you can save the truth." Outside the chamber, Evelyn could hear the hum of the archival climate system, the sound of stone pressing down across centuries of deliberately hidden knowledge. She thought about her career in ruins, her reputation in ashes, her last chance at redemption apparently destroyed by her own relentless need for truth. She looked at the files surrounding her, at the documents no one was supposed to see. at the patterns connecting events that official history claimed were unrelated. "How many of us are there?" she asked finally. 57, in this institution alone. Thousands globally. Across universities, museums, archives, governments, people who understand that the truth must be protected from the machinery of official narrative. Mercier extended his hand. "The question isn't whether to expose us. The question is whether you're willing to become complicit in something larger than yourself, whether you're willing to be forgotten so that truth can be remembered." Evelyn stared at the gun, at the passage behind him, at the files surrounding her. She thought about the girl she'd been, so certain that the truth would set her free. She thought about the woman she'd become, certain only that institutions were built to bury it. And then she made her choice. She reached for Mercier's hand, and in that moment, something shifted in the oppressive darkness. The stone walls seemed to breathe, the secrets seemed to settle deeper, and Evelyn Cross, former archaeologist, disappeared into the archive, not as a hunted woman, but as something far stranger. A keeper of truths too dangerous for the world above. A ghost in the machinery of history itself. In the darkness beneath the prestigious university, among centuries of deliberately hidden knowledge, she finally found something she'd been seeking all along, a place where being right didn't destroy you. It consumed you instead, and perhaps, she thought as she pulled another file from the shadows, that was the only kind of redemption ever available to people like her.